sensitive.
Hi, this is Caroline van from The Happy Sensitive, and this is a video about sensitivity and empowerment. And I know, as sensitive people, it can be really easy for us to feel disempowered and overwhelmed and stressed out and not knowing what to do. So I want to discuss not the, let's say, long-term solution for that, because that goes way beyond this video, but I want to show you some crucial steps to get started, and also some crucial misconceptions that need to be cleared up, like some mistakes that I see sensitive people make in trying to resolve problems and actually sinking in deeper. So one of the first things that we need to realize is that if we're overwhelmed as a sensitive person, and I'm going to use a kind of bungee jump analogy here, where it's almost like you're in a bungee jump suit and you're just kind of flying up and down and getting really overwhelmed with up and down on the bungee jump cord, and just wanting to get out and not knowing what to do. If you're in that situation, from the bungee jump metaphor, it's really clear that there's two things that need to happen. You need to figure out how to get out of your bungee jump suit. You have to figure out how to get out of that situation, and then you have to kind of ask yourself, how did I get there in the first place, right? Now, why this is important is because a lot of times what I see sensitive people do is getting completely overwhelmed, but then instead of trying to get out of the situation that creates the overwhelm, where really they keep on being disempowered and everything just keeps on repeating itself. The stress keeps repeating itself. The situation keeps repeating itself. Instead of making getting out of the situation a priority, there is a tendency to kind of look to spiritual principles and then kind of skip over the discomfort of taking practical action and actually try to kind of be positive and empowered on the inside without making outside choices and changes. So even though it's really important to start shifting stuff on the inside, if you are in a really bad situation, if you're in a bungee jump suit and you're being you're flying all over the place because you're on the edge of this, on the end of this elastic rope, and you just get really sick from all that stuff that's going on, the first thing you need to do is get out of the suit. And the first thing you need to do is not to do inner transformational work and focus on being more accepting and anything like that, because that, if you try to make that situation work, you're just going to end up still getting affected and still getting worn out, still getting depleted, still getting overwhelmed. It might go more slowly, but it's still going to happen. So the first thing when you're really overwhelmed and stressed out is not to try to deny it, not to try to pretend it's not so bad, and not to try to kind of make yourself feel better by doing some kind of inner meditation practice. Inner meditation practices are great, but not if they keep you stuck in the situation. Not if you're trying to avoid taking action. So that's really, really important, because without that step, you're not going to get anything resolved. Because here's the second part. To really figure out why you got into the mess in the first place, you're going to have to do some inner work. And the inner work requires a setting in which you can do that inner work. If you are flying up and down at the end of a bungee jump cord, you're not going to have the peace of mind and the support and the time that you need to actually do the inner work. So in that situation, you're not going to be able to do inner work effectively, and so you might try a lot of different tools and they're not going to work for you, because you can never really go deeply enough, and you can never really go far enough with them, because you're still in this bungee jump suit. You're just getting really shaken up all the time. It's really hard to do anything at all. So first thing, get out of the situation. There's actually a samurai rule. The samurai fighters have this rule. Very strong fighters, very masculine, kind of almost not quite aggressive, but very powerful energy. One of their first rules was, if you're in a bad place, get out. notice, even if you have all the skills, even if you can fight someone or fight something, the first rule is still, if you're in a bad place, get out. Don't sit there and try to take on everything that's going on. Don't try to sit there and make everything better. Leave. Get out. You know, it's a basic primal survival rule. It's really something we have to honor as sensitive people, because we have this tendency to want to make things better, and we're like, well, this shouldn't be this way, and maybe I can make it better, or maybe I can pretend it's not so bad. And then we stay in this negative situation, and things get worse, and we become more and more disempowered, and we lose touch with our ability to make empowering choices for ourselves. So that's really primal. And then the second thing, once you get out, really focus on creating an environment for yourself where you have the time and the space to actually do some inner healing. So this means saying no to some responsibilities. It means really clearing your schedule, not completely, but enough that you have consistent time to do the inner work. Because only then is it going to help you to really do that inner work and to really make changes and to really learn about healing. Because before you've actually created that space for yourself, any kind of healing tool, any kind of meditation practice, any kind of self-awareness stuff and self-help stuff is just going to add more to your already overly busy schedule. It's just going to add more to the burden. It's just going to add more to the stress. Because transformational work is not easy and it's not gentle. Well, you can try and do it in as gentle as possible way, and I definitely encourage that for sensitive people. But there's going to be some shockers along the way. So if you are bobbing up and down at the end of a bungee jump cord and you have all this, inner transformational stuff going on the inside, you're going to go crazy. It's going to be madly overwhelming and madly disempowering. So the first thing you need to do, if you have difficult stuff you're dealing with, get out of the negative situation that you're in whichever way you can, to get yourself to a place in a situation and set up where you actually have the time and space and energy to do some inner work. And of course, that's not always what we want. If we're in that, in that bungee jump suit, what we want is somebody to tell us, you just do these 3 simple things and then everything will be better. But that's not how it works. It's not that simple. So, especially with overwhelm, especially for sensitive people, it's important to break it down into steps. To first get really honest with yourself about how bad the situation is that you're in. And let yourself feel that, let yourself experience that. Because the more you will be in touch with your real anger and your real fear and your anxiety and your terror and your hatred and all these difficult, intense emotions, the more you're going to realize, like, wow, this is really not a good place for me to be in. This is really not working for me. And those, what we consider to be negative energies are really just emotional energies that are intended to get you moving. You've got lots of fear and anger and frustration. These are all energies that can help you to move out of whatever situation you're stuck in. They can really mobilize your inner sense of, okay, enough is enough, this is not working. So that's really crucial, getting in touch with your real feelings and not skipping to the inner healing work too quickly. Because if you do, there will be a tendency to pretend that if you just have better self-care tools, if you just have better healing tools, if you're just more loving, if you just try harder, that everything will sort itself out. Not true. A lot of times with transformational work, your outward situation needs to change as well. So if you're in a space where you have the time and the energy to do the inner transformational work, then you'll start to find that your outer situation starts to change as well. The people you relate to will start to shift. The opportunities that come up will start to shift. It also means a lot of the old stuff is going to crumble and fall away. Now, that's really crucial, and it can be it can be scary, for that to happen, but it's necessary. And if you are in a place where you're trying to hold on to what you've got, and you're trying to use transformational tools to hold on to the situation and to make it work, you're going against what transformation is all about. You're really shooting yourself in the foot, and you'll be investing a lot of energy in something that is completely impossible. Because the only way your situation is going to change is if you allow yourself to let go of how things are right now. If you try to make your life work with certain people and certain situations in your life right now that are not working for you, then you're basically requiring that all those situations and people change as well. Do you have any idea how improbable that is? So if you want something better for yourself, it's much easier for, let's say, God or the universe or just life to bring you a whole new setup of different people and situations and different circumstances that are going to allow you to have what you want. But that means you're going to, have to be willing to let go of what you had before. So if you're in a bad place, the first thing you need to do is do whatever you need to do to get out of that bad place. And this may take time, and you might really need help. And if you need help, reach out. Start looking for practical, very practical ways to get out of that situation, and use the little energy and resources that you have to focus on that, so that you get to a new place from where you can, plan your next step, and from which you can actually do the transformational work. But don't try to do it all at once. And don't try to transform your life from the inside and then hope that everything will be the same and transform at the same time, because that's never going to happen. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that gave you a little bit of a better sense of how empowerment and sensitivity, what are some of the things that come up for sensitive people around empowerment? What are some of the kind of key mistakes that we tend to make, and why? Because of sensitive people, if we're already overwhelmed, of course, we're going to try to avoid more overwhelm. So we're going to kind of dig in our heels and try to stay where we are. But if you're really noticing that life as it is really not working for you, then you have to use that emotional frustration and energy and fear and grief and all that stuff to get you moving out into a new place and new circumstances from which you can start creating something different.